Looking for new spring outfits or decor? Shop St. Vinny's for quality clothing, furniture, and home goods. Thrifting's cheaper than shopping at big box stores or online, and April is Earth Month, so shopping at Vinny's is a great way to protect the planet. Plus, support local. All dollars spent at St. Vinny's stay in Dane County. Proceeds go to local food pantries, pharmacies, microloans, housing support, and more. Follow at Vinny's Dane County on Facebook and Instagram to be notified when special events are coming up or to see the latest finds in store. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, it's the Friday News Roundup, and the spring election is next week. And the city is also revisiting its pedestrian plan after many, many years. Hoofers is expanding, and April Fool shenanigans have come and gone, I hope. Joining me to talk about it all is our executive producer, Haley Sperling. Hey, Haley.
Hello, Bianca. I'm here to bring some shenanigans.
Yes, I cannot wait. And our newsletter editor, Rob Thomas. Hey, Rob.
I'm a shenanigan-free zone, so don't worry.
That's a lie.
For once. Yeah.
Well, hopefully there aren't too many shenanigans in our election this round. The spring election is next Tuesday, April 7th. I want to remind folks listening that, our team here, the CityCast Madison team, will be up bright and early Wednesday morning to cover election night results, per our tradition to keep you in the know. That's both on the pod and in our newsletter. And in the run-up, we want to know, are y'all ready to vote? And I'm going to start with you two. Have you voted? Are you ready to vote? Are you voting on election day?
I like to vote on election day, and I'm going to be honest, I feel moderately ready. I think after this conversation, I'm going to feel more ready. I still need to do some reading, I feel like, on the school board candidates and Dane County Circuit Court judges, which I know you're going to tell us about, Bianca, so I'm interested to learn more. But I am registered now this time, so logistically, I'm ready.
Amazing.
Yeah, I feel ready to vote. I think also I'm not still sure who I'm going to vote for, but I definitely actually listening to the podcast this week, definitely we're thinking more about the election next week and who's on the ballot.
Yeah. Heads up, we're in the last stretch for in-person absentee voting, which means some locations won't be open for early voting. So definitely double check the hours if you're planning on early voting at any location. And this Sunday, April 5th, is the last day. So you can find the many absentee voting locations and more details linked in our show notes. So hit that up. In terms of who you're voting for, let's talk about the Wisconsin Supreme Court. This week, we dropped 2 episodes, one with each of the candidates in the race, Judge Maria Lazar and Judge Chris Taylor. If you haven't checked those out, definitely go back and take a listen. It was truly fascinating to hear from these 2 legal minds.
Yeah, I am still stuck on the fact that, Judge Maria Lazar is the first quote unquote conservative or Republican-backed candidate to 1, say yes to our response, and 2, follow through. We've had a couple say yes, but not follow through. And when we told her that, she was kind of taken aback and upset by that. So I appreciate that. And I really did appreciate both of the candidates taking time out of their busy schedules to come and talk to us, because they're running for such an important seat, and definitely had a lot of really interesting things to say, especially around the partisanship of the court. Definitely recommend people go back and listen to both of those episodes.
It's a nonpartisan court, Haley.
Yeah, right. What are we even talking about? Why bring it up?
Yeah, we got a letter from a reader who was listening to the podcast as they were going to early vote. And so, they appreciate it too. I thought it was great to have 2 conversations side by side, and kudos to Bianca for doing such good interviews with both of them and being very even-handed and thoughtful.
We try, right? We definitely try. Thanks. But man, yeah, I really enjoyed my interview with both candidates. These are some hard-working women, and you could tell.
It's almost entirely women. No matter who wins, there's just one male judge left on the court, which that's something, I feel like. I don't know.
Which is really interesting because Judge Lazar, we talked with her briefly after the interview and talked about like how few women you see in law schools going forward to become judges. So that is really fascinating. Let's turn to talk about even more local races. Last week, I know you, Rob, and the team went into more depth into our city's contested school board races. This week, I'm going to give you a little more detail on the contested race for Branch 1 of the Dane County Circuit Court, which I feel like I'm a little bit bit on the courts beat this week for sure, and now I'm really tuned in. I'm getting tons of ads for this election, which has been interesting, and I also feel really happy to be on the courts beat because as a kid, I was told that I'd make a good lawyer, aka big talker, stubborn, ask a lot of questions. Y'all can believe that.
No.
So here's the skinny on the Dane County Circuit Court nonpartisan election. It's between appointed incumbent Judge Ben Jones and challenger immigration attorney Huma Hassan. The wonderful reporter Daniel Duclos over at the Cap Times did a Q&A with both candidates earlier this month and dropped a piece this week on how to differentiate the two, which is just super helpful because the two publicly have shared really similar sentiments around the needs for the role. It's Dane County, right? So like our alders and our county supervisors, a lot of them have shared stances. And so it's coming down to the kinds of experience each has and how they're positioning themselves. So first, quickly, the job. This is a 6-year term role that judges civil and family law cases. Last year, according to Duclos reporting, the branch opened 800 cases. And theoretically, assignments can change through a judge's term, like moving stairs to include criminal and juvenile and more rotations. So who are the candidates? Judge Ben Jones was an attorney for almost a decade at the State Department of Public Instruction, most of the years there as their chief legal counsel. And then he was appointed by Governor Evers last year to this court to succeed now Supreme Court Justice Susan Crawford. So he's been doing the job for the last 7 months, and he really characterizes himself as a public servant and someone who legally fought back against Donald Trump's call to defund DEI in schools. Those are some standouts. And attorney Huma Hassan is the owner of Madison Immigration Law. She's also the former Chief Justice of the Turtle Mountain Court of Appeals, which is a tribal court for the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. She's been a legislative attorney for the Ho-Chunk Nation and for 2 years the deputy director of the Great Lakes Indian Law Center at UW Law School. So a lot there. And she's really been characterizing herself as a judge for the people of Dane County. She's highlighting her experience as the daughter of immigrants who's been through a life of seeing discrimination, and particularly someone who's appalled right now at seeing how the federal government has been using the law against immigrant communities, and someone who's served many clients. This is the first contested race for the seat since 2018. And I don't know about y'all, but it really feels like we don't get a lens into the courts except at this time, like when elections are up.
Yeah, I feel like you mentioned, it's the first contested race in almost a decade. I've been getting a lot of ads on like Instagram and whatnot for this election, mostly from Ben Jones. When I was out at the No Kings protest last weekend, I did see Huma Hassan out there tabling and encouraging people to go vote. So these candidates, they're out and about.
Yeah, I've been seeing more ads for both candidates, either yard signs or Instagram posts, and then also when you get text ads, which are funny, like I've got one for the Supreme Court race, and it was Bradley Whitford, and he said, "It's Bradley Whitford. I'll dispense with the pleasantries." And I was like, "Geez, Brad, like I don't even know you, and you're already making the ask." So, yeah, I mean. This is light years compared to previous elections where we were just, flooded with ads, but it is a reminder that this is all coming to a head next Tuesday.
And I think both of these candidates have been public talking about the impacts of our current presidential administration, how they've been taking on the courts in new ways. And in terms of how they differentiate from each other, they've both served as lawyers and have had time serving on a court. It does seem like Hassan has more years of experience working in the law. Ben is backed by a lot of the establishment, having been endorsed by Governor Evers, who appointed him, and a slew of other local officials, judges, lawmakers. And Hassan has a host of endorsements herself from local and state organizations that support immigration, like Voces de la Frontera and the trades, as well as some judges and lawmakers. So I can't give it to y'all because we've got other stories to get into. So go do your research if you want more information on them. Highly recommend it. But yeah, that's the rundown for the Dane County District Court election. Good luck to them both.
I'm feeling more informed. I'm ready to go.
Okay, good. That was the hope. Well, we're going to dive into more news in a second. But first, let's take a quick break. Explore the wonders of science! Y'all, it's time for UW-Madison Science Expeditions, the yearly UW campus-wide science open house. Yup, you heard that right. UW is opening its doors to their science labs and research centers to you and your family for free. From April 10th through the 12th, you can adventure around your top-tier public land-grant research university. You can talk with world-class researchers, enjoy science demos, and get hands-on at interactive exploration stations. The variety of programming is amazing. You can learn anything from what the inside of the human lung looks like to the science behind ice cream. You can even meet marmoset monkeys at the Primate Center. Again, UW-Madison Science Expeditions events are free and open to all. So, see you at the open house? Find the full schedule at go.wisc.edu/science expeditions.
Get excited, Madison. The Sauce Night Market is returning to Garver Feed Mill on Friday and Saturday, April 10th and 11th from 5 to 10 p.m. It's a dedicated space to support emerging chefs, artists, and makers of all kinds, featuring over 50 local vendors. It's a curated market, meaning the Sauce team has put work into bringing you an all-star lineup of diverse vendors, emphasizing quality, creativity, and individuality. The market will feature food from our friends over at Sin City Smash, Mickey's Banks, and Ice Cream Social. And of course, you can bet there'll be some specialty cocktails too. Artist Hannah Brewer will be live painting during the event. The fantastic DJ Dudley Noon will provide the music. Plus, the CityCast Madison team will be there to say hi. The best part, the market is free to attend. That said, guests are encouraged to RSVP at saucemarket.com. Anyone who RSVPs can enter to win $50 to spend on the vendors. So don't miss it. Get your sauce on, and we'll see you there.
And we're walking after midnight. Maybe not if it's dangerous, but Rob, you've got this story.
Yeah, we're going to get our steps in today. For the first time since 1997, the city of Madison is revisiting its pedestrian plan. And as you might know, the city has changed just a little bit in the last 29 years. So it seems like it's ripe for an update. The pedestrian plan is kind of an overview of existing walking and bicycling conditions in Madison, looking how stressful it is to walk and bike in certain locations, how easy it is to access places you want to go when you're walking and bicycling. And then after it makes that assessment, they make policy recommendations and program ideas and safety improvements to make walking even better. So are you guys big time walkers? Do you get out there and hit the streets?
I try to. I really do try to. You call me a flaneur. I know some people are like, stop saying French things, but leisurely walking, I think it saves my brain. I'm working from home sometimes that it just is so important to get around.
Absolutely. If I could do it more, I would do it more. I love a nice after work walk before the sun sets, and especially if you can hit up a place by the lake, James Madison, Tenney Park, Giddings is one of my favorite. I think kind of like a hidden gem out there. Love to take a nice walk, listen to a podcast, maybe CityCast Madison, more likely an audio book, something like that. So we love a little walk.
Yeah, I feel like I walk for exercise and to walk the dogs, and I bike mostly the same way. I don't do enough walking or biking to go somewhere. Usually because I'm thinking what will I bring? I don't want to forget something if I'm going to a coffee shop or whatever. And I want to do more of that. And I think that's really important as I'll get into here. And walking is big in Madison. According to the most recent census survey, 15% of trips in Madison are done on your feet, opposed to just 2% by bike, which kind of surprised me, given many bikers out there and people biking to work. I think I saw that 11% of Madisonians either bike or walk to work, for example. So it's, it's fun to go for a walk, but it's also a completely legitimate way of getting where you want to go in Madison, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I lived on State Street, this was many years ago, but I lived on State Street and I worked at WPR, which is based just down in Vilas Hall.
Right.
I just walked every day.
Yeah. But they began work on this plan last year, assessing the existing conditions and gathering input from the public. And now they're at the point to present it to the public for reaction. There's a special virtual public information session next Tuesday, April 7th at 6 p.m., where city officials will present the draft pedestrian plan. You need to register in advance online. I'll put a link to it in the show notes so people can do it. Like if you love maps, you got to check out this pedestrian plan. This thing is color coded for days. There are so many cool maps where they look at the city through all these different like criteria of like where people live and where people work and places that people want to go, like coffee shops and grocery stores, of course, where schools are because kids walk to school. And they use all this information. They're looking at where sidewalks are. How many streets have no sidewalks? How many have one? How many have them on both sides of the road? Where are all the bike paths? How are they connected? So it's really cool to look at because it's a very big picture, comprehensive look at the network of Madison and like how people get around in their own neighborhoods and then get from those neighborhoods to other neighborhoods in town. One thing they looked at is at areas that are already high traffic for biking and walking. And these are sort of the usual suspects. I mean, State Street, like you mentioned, the UW campus, Eastern Regent Street, Upper Monroe Street, Upper Park Street, Shanks Corners, Willie Street, things like that. And then they also looked at other areas that they think could be high traffic, based on where people live and work, but there are barriers to letting people do that easily, like Westtown Mall, the Raymond Road Whitney Way intersection where I used to live, South Park Street, North Sherman Avenue, East Wash around Stoughton Road. So these are areas where there are a lot of people, but there's not really a walking or biking culture right now, right?
There really isn't that infrastructure there. Like looking at that list that you just laid out of the places that they want to examine, like these are all places that I do constantly consider like, oh, I would love to walk down here, but it just doesn't make sense because there isn't a sidewalk or there aren't like protected crosswalks or, you're scared to cross East Wash, stuff like that. So that is really encouraging that there's opportunity here to make these changes. Yeah.
They did a survey of 557 residents and held focus groups focused on like things like safety for women who are walking, or a youth-led focus group on what kids want to see in walking and biking in town. And sort of a general takeaway, I don't think this is a surprise, is a feeling that even though we're a big biking and walking town, people feel like pedestrian paths and bike paths come secondary to roads in Madison, which is, not a surprise. They also talked about safety. And when you talk about safety, you're talking about, traffic, but you're also talking about fear of being harassed if you're, alone on a path or after midnight, like you mentioned, Bianca. Mm-hmm. And then another one I think is, like everything else in Madison, there are disparities. Some neighborhoods are very walkable and some are not, and how you seek to alleviate that. And the big takeaway, I would say, as I sort of mentioned, there are a lot of issues that if Madison could solve them, involving accessibility, involving safety, involving comfort, a lot more people in Madison would be biking and walking. They want to, but there's not an easy way to get from this bike path to that bike path, or like you said, there's not a sidewalk here or a bike path. So it's really interesting. So they're going to present the information next Tuesday at this meeting, and they're hoping to get feedback from that and then adopt this plan in the spring and then start making these policy recommendations and safety improvements. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm really thrilled about them going back and looking at a plan that was developed in 1997. It's almost a throwback to hear that number. But as someone who tries to go, on daily walks, I think if there was more of a collective culture of walking and biking, it would inspire more people to do so. I regularly walk in a neighborhood that doesn't have sidewalks, but the neighborhood, people be out. People are out walking. And as a driver, it feels a little uncomfortable, honestly. And I think that's maybe good, but it also kind of shows the weaknesses of the infrastructure and how things are set up. I cannot wait to go out on my walk, and then I have to cross a major road, and I hate it. Like, that's my least favorite part of the walk, because there are no blinking lights or anything. And so, yes, there are lines on the ground to get across, but how much cars actually stop for you or not, like, you already know I'm not afraid to take up space, and I will walk out, put my hands up, like, please, I'm coming through. But the amount of cars that might as well just run me over, it's way too many. And I think people sometimes, especially after work, they're on their phones or something's happening where it's very clear they're not paying attention. And so having blinking lights would, for me, at some crossing spaces where they're not at, it might be good. That's really on my mind because I would love to walk more, and it is still such a car-focused city. So how we change that is, structural, I suppose.
Yeah, I am at a point right now, especially after, and I hate to be the downer here, but like, especially after this like sort of recent run of fatal traffic incidents, just seemingly more traffic incidents or more high profile traffic incidents. Like, I don't trust anyone when I am out walking. Like if I am a pedestrian, I'm really taking it upon myself to make smart decisions when it comes to crossing the streets and, being aware of cars. And like, it is on me, right? But it is also on everyone else. But the thing, I don't trust any of you out there driving, even with the flashing lights. The amount of times that like I have had the flashing lights going and someone has almost like plowed through me, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? And here's the thing, I'll reflect, because that has been me in the past. I have been like, okay, I see the flashing lights going on, but if I maintain this speed or if I slow down this much, like they'll cross at whatever time and we'll make it through. Like I shouldn't have to stop. But then one time, this woman kind of like stopped in the middle of the crosswalk and was like, hey, like the lights are on, you have to stop. And I was like, in the moment, I was like, what the heck? But thinking about it, I'm like, no, like she's right. She's so right. And like, it is on us. It is on drivers to slow down and always just give deference to the people who are walking, because no matter what, we are all drivers. You're always going to get there faster. It's not worth speeding down these streets. And yeah, that's just something that's been on my mind for a long time.
And you're right about the flashing lights. Just this past weekend, I was going to Mickey's Tavern, and they have flashing lights, and a woman was absolutely looking at her phone and was just about to hit me and the person I was with. And I thought, you are lucky that I'm not my sister who introduced me to Madison. But she was much more like punk rock and roll. And she would have like, bam, Madison's got our punk and rock and rollers out here. But you're right. Not even that will stop some people. So gosh, yeah, we need some help. Pedestrians need help out here.
Let's all get along. Pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, we all want to get where we're going safely, right? We don't want our car getting pounded on by...
Yeah, but you don't want your body pounded
and
by
you don't
car.
want your body pounded
I think
too.
that's the priority.
Exactly.
But on a positive note, I love colorful maps.
You'll love these maps. Somebody loves maps in the city of Madison, for sure. Yeah.
Well, being people forward is huge, and we can't all get along. Thanks for bringing the story, Rob. And we've got more news to get into for folks who like to be active outdoors. But before we do that, let's take a quick break. All right, it's time for our weekly segment, Banking Outside the Box with Oak Bank, with the sponsor of this episode, Oak Bank. It's your opportunity to get your banking and financial questions answered by an expert.
Hi, I'm Jim McNulty, Senior Vice President of Business Banking at Oak Bank. And our question this week is, what are the advantages of working with a local bank? Well, when you work with a local community bank, you get the benefit of local decision making. The people that manage your money live and work right here in Dane County, not in some skyscraper in New York or some other far-off city. You can swing by the bank at any time and ask us a question face-to-face. We're actual people available for you in person, and that's how it should be. For 25 years, our tagline at Oak Bank has been, you can't be the best if you're only the same. This means local banks give back to the community that they serve. We reinvest in Dane County businesses, families, and community services, strengthening the local economy and our community as a whole. When you work with a local bank, this means you're working with real people, not automated phone systems or bots. When you call Oak Bank, somebody actually picks up the phone. And that may seem quaint in today's age of AI and recorded phone menus, but for Oak Bank, it's really foundational. We're real people answering real questions about your business's financial needs. If you have any questions, just reach out to us at Oak Bank.
Huge thanks to Oak Bank for sponsoring this segment. If you've got a banking or financial question, hit the link in the show notes. You might even hear it answered in an upcoming episode. Well, we've been talking about getting outside more. Haley, what's the news over on campus?
Yeah, we got some news on campus. UW's largest student org is getting Even bigger. Earlier this week, Isthmus reported that UW-Madison is planning a $2.7 million expansion of the Hoofers Lake Lab, which sits right along the shoreline of Lake Mendota, kind of right off of Memorial Union. How familiar are you guys with Hoofers?
Well, I mean, I see the boats out there all the time and on the terrace. Yeah.
Pretty familiar. It was something freshman year. Well, actually, I guess all through undergrad, I agonized over, am I going to sign up for Hoofers? Because they say, if you sign up, you'll have discounts for the rest of your life. But I couldn't afford it. But I have actually almost given that as a gift to someone and thought about signing up because I would love to learn how to sail. And so does my partner. So
That's a great idea as a gift. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
a union membership.
Wow. You guys, you're so smart. We're going to get into how people can join, but a little bit of background on Hoofers, because like you mentioned, it's sailing, it's outdoorsy. It's made up of 6 specific clubs within the organization. So outing, which is like hiking, backpack, all that good stuff, mountaineering, riding, sailing, scuba, and then ski and snowboard are one together. So Hoofers membership, it's open to all UW students, faculty, staff, and Wisconsin Union members, which anyone can be for a $55 annual fee. Or you can even purchase a lifetime membership, and that price kind of varies depending on your relationship to the university. It's a little bit cheaper for alumni. It's around like $200 to $300. So this change is very exciting because essentially UW is growing, Hoofers is growing, and they have really outgrown their current setup. They need more storage, they need event space, and they're talking about accessibility, ADA accessibility. And for context, the current building that they use, the one that's kind of like right off of Memorial Union, dates back to 1931. So she needs an update. It was actually updated to have stories taken off of it back in the 80s. So it was like shortened, but now they want to make it bigger. The design plans are still in the preliminary phases right now, but here's a little bit of an outline of what they're looking for. They want to expand their storage and staging areas, as well as their outdoor classroom space. They want to widen the staircase that leads to the Lake Lab from Park Street. They also want to build an ADA ramp to create a new accessible route from North Park Street to the Lakeshore Path. And they're going to be incorporating some potential B-cycle stalls on the site. So do you guys know this space I'm talking about? Like I said, it's basically like right next to Memorial Union on the Lakeshore Path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been through there and downstairs. And when you walk by, you kind of get encouraged to be a little more courageous and do things you haven't done. Because people are like in their wetsuits and yeah.
I've got a brat in my hand. I was like, good luck with that, guys.
You guys go.
Yeah. With you in spirit.
Carrying a pitcher out to the scuba divers there. Yes, exactly. So yeah, like I said, it's like right off of the Union, kind of tucked away towards the Lakeshore Path area. So it's a very high traffic area, of course. And like I mentioned, this whole thing is set to cost about $2.7 million. But as we know, construction costs can change pretty quickly. But to note, according to State Journal reporting, this funding for this project is being provided by a private donor, which is pretty neat. There's no plans to use any tax dollars here, which it seems like if UW wants to get anything done facilities-wise these days, like that's the way they got to go. So right now, according to Isthmus, the big quote-unquote controversy around this project is the potential removal of some bike parking at Helen C. White Hall, the library that's right next door. Those stalls are heavily used throughout the summer and the full year, so there's still time to sort of figure it out. But right now, according to the preliminary design plans, Hoofers hopes to start construction this June and wrap up by October of 2027. So they got to get the B-cycle stuff sorted out. They got to get this bike parking stuff sorted out. But to me, that seems... I don't know, it seems like kind of minor problems. It cannot be that hard to install another bike rack somewhere. I don't think people would be opposed to it. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it here, but it's pretty exciting. And I mean, we kind of got into this, but my one fun question for you guys is if you guys were to join a Hoofers Club now, today, in your current selves, which one would it be?
Well, I said sailing, but now I want to do mountaineering because climbing is also the other thing that made me want to join Hoofers.
I have skied, so it probably natural I would join that club. But then I've always wanted to learn scuba. That would be really cool. Go down, look at those canoes or something like that.
We should do scuba.
Yeah.
Team
together.
scuba.
Let's
Team
do an
scuba.
episode underwater, guys.
Hoofers, are you listening?
Has anyone done a podcast underwater? Has anyone done a podcast underwater in Lake Mendota? We could be the first.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Jade, do we have the technology? No, we don't. I don't even have to ask.
Private donor.
Calling any private donors out there. I'm also Team Scuba. I've been thinking about getting scuba certified. There are actually a couple places around Madison to do it. So yeah, Hoofers, something for everyone. Shout out to Hoofers.
Shout out to Hoofers. And it's time for our neighbor shout outs, the beautiful people that make this ship float.
Woo!
Monica L. wanted to shout out Lights Out Wisconsin, a campaign to reduce light pollution, help wildlife, and save on utility bills, and several Madison-based nonprofits are participating in it. Sounds like a great idea.
Turn off the lights. I want to see the stars. I love it.
Monica L., thank you so much for writing in. Shout out to Lights Out Wisconsin. And y'all out there, if you're listening and want to get in on the opportunity and privilege to shout out folks who are doing great work in Madison on the pod, or shout out anyone you want to, become a CityCast Madison neighbor. It's only $10 a month or $100 a year, and it truly is the best way to directly support the work we do, in addition to listening to the podcast and reading the newsletter. Have I sold you? Head to membership.citycast.fm to learn more and become a neighbor today. And we're ending this conversation on a really fun and upsetting note.
Fun and upsetting is the best way to describe it. April Fools, we got some winners and losers and strong feelings about it all. I've got a love-hate relationship with April 1st. It's a day of tomfoolery and good times, which I love, but it's also a day of poorly thought out jokes and people trying too hard. And this year, a lot of AI, which I kind of hate. So I rounded up a handful of jokes from local spots, hoping to have some fun on April Fool's Day. Some of them were great, and some of them not so much. So I'm going to get into some of these jokes with you guys. I want to start off with one that I think is an absolute winner. The Nature Conservancy in Wisconsin, they posted on their Instagram, they quote unquote rebranded some common local species with new names, like the American robin, which they dubbed the red-chested yard inspector, and the humble garter snake, which is now the surprise grass noodle, and my favorite, the American crow, which is now goth chicken.
I like that.
I love all of those.
Right?
That is a surprise grass noodle, yard inspector. That's their names now.
Yeah, if there isn't a band called Goth Chicken that appears in the next 6 months, I'll be very surprised. And Haley will have the t-shirt.
Yes, I would buy all of that merch. This, to me, 10 out of 10 joke. Very funny, very silly. No one gets hurt. We all have a good time. Our next joke comes from our friends over at Lola's. They also posted on their social media that, quote, due to the increasing cost of restaurant operations, as well as a heightened demand for maintaining exquisite vibes at all times, we will begin imposing a 3% vibe tax on all checks, $50 or more, effective immediately. I give this one a solid 6 out of 10. I smirked, Lola's, it's a vibe. That's their shtick. And it's a vibe.
Yeah.
A vibe tax.
I was actually planning on going to Lola's. I'm like, I'm going to be able to bring the heat and they can take my money and vibes for sure.
Did they also do one where they had a picture of Harry Styles DJing? So they were going hard for April Fools.
Yeah, they really were. They are absolutely in their Harry Styles era. This next joke riled the people up. This one came from the Chazen, our love, our life. Fun fact, I have a Chazen tattoo. They posted on their social media that, quote, after 56 years of education, research, and public service, we've made the difficult decision to close the Chazen Museum of Art, ... On the next slide, for the summer. Did we fool you? We're not closing for good. We're closing for a good reason. Starting Monday, April 6th, the museum's galleries will be restricted to Chazen staff as they finish putting the final touches on our renovations to the LVM building and reinstall our permanent collection and exciting new additions. So This post made me worried. Bianca, I know you had feelings about this one.
The levels of twisted. Okay. I had a good day with April Fools online until this moment, for which my heart dropped to my stomach. I had a physical stress response and immediately rushed to tell you guys, oh my God, the Chazen. And I had seen jokes all day. And then I saw that it was fake. And then I'm like, I was like, don't hurt him. And then I deleted the comment. And then I just said, this is savage. But there were a lot of people like, not funny. This actually upset. Like, there's so much going on right now in the world and we're losing so many things and the arts are under attack. So to be like, we're closed after 56 years, after this Corporation for Public Broadcasting has been defunded, you cannot do that to us, Chazen. You cannot.
We're fragile. We're so fragile.
Like I was trying to think whether it's worse to have an April Fool's prank that says something bad like that, and then, oh no, April Fool's, it didn't happen. Or if it's promising something good, and then, no, that's not happening. Like Chocolate Shop this year, I don't know if you saw that one, advertised that they have a new beer cheese soup flavored ice cream.
Ew.
And I was a little disappointed to find out it was a prank, to be honest with you.
I would eat that quick.
Yeah.
All right. Difference of taste here, but yeah, I could see that. Yeah, and that's the thing with this one too for the Chazen for me is like they do actually have news to share, right? Like starting Monday, April 6th, closed down to the public. Of course, their lobby and cafe area is still open for people to hang out in, so that's important to know. But it's like you're presenting some actually very big news in the form of a joke, and it is such a miss. I love the Chazen. I hated this joke. It stressed me out.
So the Chazen one was truly the end of me liking April Fools. Like maybe I'll come back around, but I have only loved April Fools. And my day, I just want a quick share. I woke up, Haley, you had asked the team, like, hope you guys didn't get caught by any April Fool's Day stuff online. And the first one, I did get a little caught. I forget who posted it, but it was a picture, probably AI, of a trolley or like a tram going from downtown. It was by the Capitol, and it was a tram going around the bank and the Walgreens going down King Street. And I'm like, oh, they're like, in a surprise move, local officials decided to green light a pilot for this tram. And I thought, oh, well, how many years, I'm just waking up. I'm like, how many years is this? Like in 2050? Like, this is interesting because DC has a tram. And also Milwaukee, I rode theirs recently. And I'm just like, I guess that's the right place for it to go. And I was like, oh, it's April Fool's. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is a fun day. Then I got a message from a friend, Charlie Barron's is running for governor of Wisconsin. And I wrote her, I said, it's April Fool's. And later in the day, she's like, oh my God. And then the Chazen hit me in the stomach. I'm like, hey, tu Brute. Like, not an art museum going that hard. But I had to share my arc of a day because it was quite a thing. I don't know.
An emotional roller coaster. This is why it's a love-hate relationship. April Fools. It's so hard. My last April Fool's prank to share with you guys came from the folks over at State Street Brats. They probably are the ones who used the most AI to make this happen, but it was pretty funny. They posted a quote-unquote press release saying, Guy Fieri acquires historic Madison staple, State Street Brats, and had this whole like set of pictures of Guy Fieri out in front of State Street Brats and like what looks to be him signing some contracts and one holding like liquor license and whatnot. And like they really went all out for this one, wrote this whole press release and people were like definitely kind of believing it because, in the scheme of things, it wouldn't be that crazy, right? It really would not be that crazy. But at the end of their press release, they have this 4-paragraph disclaimer that's essentially just like, this is a joke. Happy April Fools. Thank you for supporting State Street Brats. Nothing is changing.
I saw this and I am just finding out that it's fake. I did not read it. I just saw the pictures. I was like, oh, he's there. Cool.
Those pictures,
totally believe
those
that.
pictures are convincing. They're more convincing than the actual photos of Mark Zuckerberg when he went to State Street Brats.
That's so real. That is so real because he looks like a little horrified robot who's like, I've never held a brat. I've never held a hot dog in my hands before. That's so funny. I'll read a part of their disclaimer. It says, this extensive multi-paragraph disclosure serves as a legally non-binding guarantee that the operational hierarchy of State Street Brats remains completely unaltered by the events described in the aforementioned fictional narrative. The, quote, new captain of the helm is merely a metaphorical phantom conjured for the sole purpose of mild to moderate internet deception. So you got caught, B.
I'm okay with it. I really didn't read anything. I scrolled past them, like the pictures. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's there. Cool. Cool. But it's kind of scary that those were that good. I shared a bit of mine, Rob. Did you have any like other standouts?
The beer cheese soup one was a big one for me. I saw Strictly Disc said that Nicolas Cage was going to do an in-store performance, which was so bizarre. Like it almost got me just because it was so bizarre. It was, yeah.
That is one of the, like, it's so weird it could be true.
Exactly.
Because why not?
Right. Yeah. But I had my skepticism blinders up, so I didn't fall for that one. That's the other one I remember, I think.
I think the Majestic and the High Noon also did some.
Oh,
too.
also, yeah, the Majestic had one where they're turning that space above the marquee into a little outdoor bar, and I commented, I was like, okay, but why not? Like,
Yeah.
It's a great space. I've seen bands hanging out up there before they play, and so, yeah make a little 8-top experience up there. Yeah.
April Fools, man, it's been playing on our heartstrings and bringing us ideas for what we want in our city, possibly. It was a lot of fun. All right, y'all. That's the Friday News Roundup. Thanks for rounding up the news with me this week. As always, Haley Sperling.
See you later.
And Rob Thomas.
Bye, Bianca.
That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. We're produced by Jade Isiri Ramos with help this week by roving producer Lizzie Goldsmith. Haley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Additional music this week by Anders Fab, DM, and Drew Shepard from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor. You can get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to the CityCast Madison newsletter. And don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And hey, if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with someone who could take a joke? All right, see you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city. Until then, thanks for listening and have a great weekend.